Morning, everybody. Welcome to Daryl and Boo's weekly update on February 16th. Coming off a long weekend here, so we're airing on a Tuesday and Valentine's Day. How was your long weekend, Boo?
Yeah, it was good. I think we'll be talking about snow in a little bit here, but we had a little bit of snow. I imagine you got more snow than we did. We had enough snow to cover the ground, and there's a park near us that has a bit of a bowl, so the kids can kind of go sledding down there, and the kids have a bit of a sled park in the front yard, but that's all gone at this point. It's washed away. But the snow was probably our highlight of the weekend. And then otherwise, actually, we could probably talk about this a little bit later as well, but made the mistake of watching a home improvement show in front of my wife. And so she came up with about 50 ideas for things for me to start working on around the house. And so I started one of the projects yesterday. But that was, that consumed my weekend. How about yours?
Yeah, I was over in Victoria this weekend. My wife and I just was over there specifically because my mom's dealing with some health things that I was just over there taking care of. But we stayed for the long weekend, went over on Friday evening and stayed until yesterday. And so Friday it was cold over there, but they were calling for 10 centimeters of snow overnight. And in Victoria, it's funny because it's in Vancouver, when it snows, the city almost shuts down. Victoria is even worse. So when there is any threat of snow, people just kind of panic over there. But having said that, I grew up on the island, and you certainly can get stuck on the island. Mm-hmm. If there's enough snow, and wind, they'll shut down ferries, and of course you can't fly over, so you can be stuck. So we contemplated on Friday evening for a brief moment, just heading back on Friday evening. I got most of the stuff done that I needed to, but we decided to stay, and it snowed a little bit more, but otherwise it was actually quite nice. So we had a kind of enjoyable, really relaxing weekend in Victoria. Came home last night, so. Cool. Yeah, but as you said, speaking of snow, we've got one of our favorite guys waiting in the wings here, sort of available.
Yeah, he's just a dot now.
Yes, our good friend Tim Wagner. As I think when we had Tim on a couple of months ago, one of the updates was Tim had moved from Chicago to Austin, Texas, where it's always sunny and beautiful and warm, but they're not the case right now. It's quite cold where you are.
First bit of news we can bring up. Welcome, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. And I apologize I'm not on camera. I'm currently in 3 jackets and a winter hat with very limited power.
For all those Canadians, the winter hat is a toque, actually.
Yes, I should have said toque. I know that. I'm a hockey guy. But it's funny. I think I've had power for about 6 hours out of the last 30, and that's intermittent, on and off. So, and it's 7 degrees. So I feel like I'm in Canada. In spirit, I'm in Canada.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, but no joke when you don't have power and it's that cold out. And we were saying earlier, you came from Chicago where the winters are pretty harsh to get to Austin, and then to have to deal with something like this is not fun, I imagine.
No, it's not at all. And so I do. It's funny. I was telling you guys, my neighbors, no one has boots. I at least kept all my stuff. So we got about 3 inches of snow at my house. So I was able to go outside and kind of, walk around and whatever. It's fine. But the worst part is having a pool here. They don't build them like Chicago, and you don't winterize like Chicago. But when you don't have power, your pool turns into a skating rink. So if I could show you a picture, you would see I was out there early this morning breaking the ice off the top because I could almost walk on it.
Wow.
So I didn't read into this article too much yet, but the rolling blackouts that you guys are experiencing, is that just because of demand on the system at this point, or is there actually structural issues to the power infrastructure?
So it's both. So how Texas works is we're not part of the national grid. So Texas runs their own, it's called ERCOT, their own power grid that's wholly in the state of Texas. And then all the communities are basically like co-ops that connect into the Texas grid. And so that's one challenge. So you can't draw excess power from other communities. But then they had, I think like 20% of our power is generated via wind, solar combination, and then the rest is natural gas, coal, and nuclear. And the wind farms all stopped working because they froze, because we had freezing rain and then snow. And so that cut capacity. And then they had some issues because of the natural gas plants, those because of the demand on natural gas supply, because the whole US is having a big freeze. So like it's a multi-layered failure. And then they do rolling blackouts that aren't really rolling. They're kind of just random and there's no notification. So
Well, that was the next article here. Here's how Austin Energy says it determines rotating blackouts. Let's see here.
yeah, I don't know if you call it rotating when there's some people who are out for 9-10 hours. Doesn't feel like it's being rotated very much.
Yeah, rock, paper, scissors or something.
Yeah.
Well, and they're prioritizing, like they should, hospitals and structure, critical infrastructure. But I think I mentioned to you guys last night, the cell tower by me was down for an hour and a half. So I'm guessing their batteries ran out. They probably ran out of gas on their generators and took someone having to go there to fill it back up.
Well, then you got to be concerned about pipes freezing and all that kind of fun stuff too.
Yeah, and like you guys know, all your plumbing is inside, right, in your houses, and you have a mechanical room. Well, here, your water heaters are generally outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and mine is in a closet. Like I call it a closet. There's like an outside door you have to use to get it. So it's got cold air in there. So even your hot water tanks don't really stay hot when you don't have power because they're outside.
Yeah, I never realized that anybody would ever put a hot water tank outside, but I guess it would make sense down there.
Yeah, I mean it's in the summer. It's free heat because it's 100 degrees.
Someone could start a business just building insulated little sheds around plumbing fixtures outside in Texas and be busy.
Yeah.
That might be your project next year, Tim.
Yeah. I know. Well, right now I have a barbecue outside with a sink, and so all the pipes are insulated, but they still, when it's 7 degrees, they'll freeze. So I have a little space heater that sits underneath this built-in stone barbecue thing that when there's power, it's running, and I have the tap dripping. So I don't even want to see my water bill for the past 2 days.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, pretty crazy. Well, thanks for joining. Your audio is actually very good, all things considered. And one of the things that you've been working on that I thought would be cool to talk about is F5 has made this acquisition of Volterra, and you're heavily involved right now in the on-ramping of Volterra. I believe we caught Volterra early stage, so they don't have a full sales team there, if I'm not mistaken. And so, we can plug in Volterra, and some of the stuff that you're working on is going to be enabling that, right?
Yeah. So it's actually funny. It's been nonstop, as you can imagine, with an acquisition. And yeah, they were pretty early stage. They hadn't really gone to market fully in the U.S. specifically. So they started more kind of in Europe and Japan, and have been coming over to the Americas more and more. So very, very small teams, not a lot of marketing, And so when they came into F5, it's been a big adjustment for them and a big adjustment for us because it's so early, right? And we've made 2 other acquisitions in the past, 3 years, give or take. But those all had established teams, established presence in the market, right? NGINX with the big open source community, Shape, with large enterprise customers. So it's a very different motion to integrate a stealth, just out of stealth startup, but very exciting.
Yeah, yeah. We've talked a little bit about Volterra on kind of previous shows too, but maybe you can kind of just share a little high-level overview of what Volterra is, and I guess why F5 chose to acquire Volterra.
Yeah, so in my mind, I think of Volterra as offering a simplified distributed cloud architecture for customers, and there's components to it. But the reason I say that is, if you kind of go back and you look, most people are using multi-cloud today. The industry buzzword of multi-cloud. But what that really means is they run different apps in different clouds, whether that's public, private, or on-prem data centers. I'm referring to all of those as a cloud. Mm-hmm. But they don't actually connect them together because it's very difficult, right? Because every environment is managed very differently. And then they're not leveraging common infrastructures or kind of taking advantage of newer technologies, 5G, right? I'm doing this over LTE. I could turn my video on if you wanted to be embarrassed and see a very not good looking person on this video. But
comment here.
What's that?
Bill Kempthorne left a comment, not enough electricity for video.
So right now the power just came on, so I could turn my video on, but I don't know if you want to see me bundled in 3 jackets and a hat. So, but the point is, right, you can do video over cellular. My Wi-Fi hasn't come up yet, but I could do video over cellular. And so when you start looking at that, you go, the world's changed from an access point perspective, how devices access. Mm-hmm. And then people are using this multi-cloud thing, but really, I think, desire something bigger, like a distributed cloud. And so really that's what Volterra brought to us. Is Volterra has some core components, kind of a software stack for, layer 3 through 7. Then they have an app stack that can run anywhere. And then in the middle, they have basically a telco, a network that is optimized for applications. Mm. So when you combine all those together with all the things F5 does from a services perspective, there's some real potential for us to do some very cool things. And Buu, I don't know, have you talked about it before, the secure cloud architecture that F5 is?
Yeah, that's something that we've brought up before. I know, in your visits up here as well, that's always something that we've chatted about. And I think part of the secure cloud architecture was always like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you built your F5 like this? But there is a couple missing Lego pieces to that, we could say.
Yeah, so I call this my simplified version. If someone was new secure cloud architecture, this Volterra gives us secure cloud architecture as a service.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be exciting for F5. It's exciting, I think, for our customers because it can offer some really interesting concepts to take advantage of what we call regional edges. Basically turn anywhere where you have compute, network, and storage into your own, I'll use the telco word, a POP, and be able to run your application completely inside of there on VoltStack. That could be pretty powerful when you're looking at an enterprise architecture leveraging distributed cloud services.
Yeah, I'm excited to start talking to our customers about it. And I think we're kind of, obviously, Buu and I are just waiting for the dust to settle a little bit on the acquisition. And as you said, it was pretty small team, but we conceptually understand kind of what it can do. You think about our customers here in BC, not uncommon. Most of them have moved to cloud to some extent, but are really trying to figure out just how to get things working in one cloud, let alone multi-clouds.
Yeah.
But as you said, they do have apps in, Azure and AWS just out of necessity, and maybe even GCP also. But none of these clouds, obviously, public cloud providers build their environment to work well with their competitor. So everyone's got the long-term or maybe even midterm goal of being multi-cloud and being able to kind of move workloads around and not be stuck with one, for lack of better terms, with one provider. So an as a service type of security here for multi-cloud is pretty cool, because it's just, again, it's a very tough thing to figure out on your own, even for single cloud.
Yeah, and the benefit is it's really easy to manage, right? There's one SaaS console. The software stacks can run on anything from bare metal to pretty much any public cloud provider's compute instances. And so it all looks and feels the same, and we've done all the stitching behind the scenes, right? So operationally, you have one console. Notice I didn't say one pane of glass, because I think that's overused, but you have one console to do things, and then that's backed by all the SRE operations that we run. So, we call it a SaaS platform. You could actually leverage it as a PaaS platform in some cases if you wanted to, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So we think actually for large enterprise, there's some value. They can do a lot of customization, but for that mid enterprise who wants to take advantage of some cloud services, or maybe is using microservices in multiple clouds, maybe there's a benefit of optimizing that traffic flow, but then maybe Volterra actually becomes one of your clouds, because it can. So it's pretty interesting conceptually. And, I think the biggest challenge is it can do a lot of things. How do you narrow it down and focus on solving problems? So that's what we're really trying to do is go think about the actual problems customers have and drive solution architectures for those, as opposed to, hey, it can do a lot of things. What would you like to do?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm assuming we're still a few months away, I would expect, from really kind of getting out there and talking to customers about potential deployments or what it can do. Is that fair to say, Tim? Or are you trying to?
Yeah.
Using that?
Yeah, for the most part, I would say that's fair from a general. We're going slow on purpose, because there's a lot of things that we're looking at in terms of options and services, and how do we simplify across the entire F5 portfolio to make it easier for our customers to consume and manage. So there's a lot of things happening. So I definitely think it'll work slowly, but if you watch any of the, press releases from Francois, our CEO, we're talking about a future that we think companies are building to, which is Edge 2.0. And that really, in my mind, it means anywhere compute, network, and storage exist, we can turn into an edge. Even on tractors, if you're a agricultural firm, or cars. One of the cool use cases, and I'm only mentioning this because I know Buu's a huge Tesla guy. Daryl, are you a Tesla guy?
Just by osmosis through Buu.
But Buu's always talking about his Tesla.
Yeah.
And so I saw a use case that they had, worked in as a public use case, but I'll leave the name out. It's not Tesla. But charging stations. And how do you take all this data that the cars collect and upload it if you can't necessarily do that all online all the time? And so they're using charging stations as mini data centers. And when you think about that, you can't have 12 vendors in there and racks of equipment in a charging station, but you could have a small software stack that could run on an Intel NUC and be able to do the collection and then plug back into maybe a public cloud like AWS or Azure for data analysis in a data lake once the car drives away. It's pretty wild to think that cable that's charging your car is also grabbing data from your car.
Yeah.
Yeah, incredibly powerful when you just think how much that's going to grow over the next, whatever, decade or so.
Yeah. I think what I got out of your point there is you're pointing out that the Teslas are already connected via LTE and other car manufacturers are behind, and so they need connectivity to the charging stations.
Yeah, well, so that's an interesting point. So yes, it has LTE and it can do that. And a lot of cars have that, right? Like you can do over-the-air updates. My Ram truck has that over-the-air updates for software. But when you start having more than one camera, multiple cameras, you're trying to do diagnostics. There's a stat, and I won't name the manufacturer, but like an airplane, for instance, 1 hour of flight, 2 terabits of data in terms of collected maintenance about all the systems. So imagine cars getting to that capacity. Yeah, over the air is great for certain things, but do you really want to transfer 2 terabytes over the air for every hour someone drives?
Yeah. Well, that's not I don't think that's cost effective for Elon there. Well, maybe through Starlink.
Right. I guess if you own the entire infrastructure stack, maybe.
Yeah. Very cool use cases. And the other thing I was thinking about as well is such flexibility in deployment. Some of the challenges that we've seen in the past have been for Canadian public sector has been the ability to easily deploy into Canadian data centers without having to rely on somebody to build it for you, but actually just pointing and clicking and saying, go deploy into Canada East. And then all of a sudden your stack is there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got some real potential. And, I should mention the team who built it are not new, right? Like the CEO is actually a coder, which I find really interesting. Anchor, he's super smart if you go read some of his blog posts. So he's coding. His team has built some of the larger environments that and just out of respect for those companies, I'm not going to mention them, but they have cutting edge experience. And so we're taking these systems that they've used in all these different places and creating a better package, essentially, with the goal of simplifying operations, because I think people would use more multi-cloud services if it was easier, but it's hard. Just networking. I mean, look at AWS. You can have transit gateway, you can have gateway load balancer, you can have ELB, you can have ALB, you can have NLB. And then you move to Azure and there's no concept of transit networking like that. They don't use the term VPCs. They use a different term. And so you need all these experts, and that becomes the glut, I think, for companies to get the advantage, which is, at the end of the day, whether you use a public cloud, private cloud, any vendor, your goal is to enhance digital experience, which is what all the interactions now, especially, I mean, look at this. The only time I talk to you and Daryl now is through a Zoom app or StreamYard or whatever it might be. Applications are the interface for human connection, and that digital experience matters. And that's what everybody's trying to drive, with all this technical babble in the middle, making it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
A couple of points that I'll bring up here, kind of bringing it back to Vancouver and clouds, is one thing I thought we could do once in a while is feature a couple of folks from the local community. And Melissa O'Brien,
Yes,
Canadian public sector. I need to zoom that in a little bit more. Canadian public sector customer that we've dealt with for a long time has moved to AWS. So shout out to Melissa for getting a really cool job like that.
Yeah, well deserved. She's been great to work at. And I think she mentioned 24 years at WorkSafe, so she does not look like she could be working anywhere at 24 years, but good for her.
Yeah. And another one too, our good friend Ravin has moved to Insight and will be an Azure cloud architect. So a couple moves in the Vancouver industry, or the Vancouver local community here, heading towards cloud.
Yep, Rob, very, very bright guy. We got to work with him quite a bit when he was at IBM. So it's a great addition to the Insight team for sure.
Yeah, really cool. And so a couple other things that I thought I could bring up here. Where is it? This one here. Vancouver sports fans furious after TSN 1040 gets pulled off the air.
Where's the green guy?
There he is, right there.
Yeah, he only comes out when we win, and we don't win very much these days.
I was gonna say you're like the Blackhawks, my old team.
Yeah, we were pretty sad. But yeah, that was kind of abrupt, the way they just kind of pulled the rug out from under 1040. It's been a bit of a staple here in Vancouver for a long time, for still a lot of people who listen to sports radio.
Yeah. Now, I thought after last week's discussion around Super Bowl that, now is the time for us, if we're going to ever transition the Daryl and Buu show, there's a big vacuum happening here with the departure of TSN 1040, and our operating costs are a lot less than what it costs to operate 1040 probably. So, we can make that move in the market.
Yeah, that's probably a good move. We'll have to do a little bit of branding, but could be on the air next week if we need to.
Well, isn't that because the motion is now all podcast, right? So everybody listens to podcast, not radio. So maybe they'll just move to a podcast.
Yeah, true. I recall who's the guy that ran? He was part of Sports Page before, like a long time ago, and he
Don Taylor, maybe.
Don Taylor, yeah, and then he ended up just doing like online stuff instead, and has been pretty successful at it.
Yeah, he's good. You'd still hear, like you said, you still hear his voice every once in a while in various different places. So he was a bit of a legend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I was mentioning this to Tim earlier, but SpaceX launches 60 more satellites for Starlink service. Now, one of my teammates, Dan Kaye over in Ottawa, just got his Starlink set up. He's in the Ottawa area, but his home is kind of out a little bit further, so he doesn't have super reliable internet. And he got his Starlink. He signed up for it right away when they first started allowing for early signups, and he's getting 150 meg service from them, and the latency was 35 milliseconds on satellite, which satellite usually is 100 200 millisecond at best. So it's gonna be a pretty cool service.
Boo, it's funny you mentioned Starlink because it was did you guys have Nextdoor up in Canada? Do you guys use that, the Nextdoor app?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's like a community kind of chat, Facebook for your community.
Okay.
And one of the things I saw on there was SpaceX Starlink coming to the Austin area, as you can imagine, because Elon's big here now.
Yeah.
So Starlink, $99 a month, and there's a lot of satellite out here. Like HughesNet's pretty big here, and the most you can get is 25 megs, and I think it's like 100 milliseconds of latency built in.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I've been trying to get through the latest Elon appearance on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he's a lot for folks who like to follow that stuff. Elon is a little bit more casual, even more casual on this appearance on that podcast. So it's pretty good. He didn't smoke any weed, at least to the point that I've gotten to. I'm about halfway through so far because I don't spend as much time in the car, so I'm not listening to podcasts at full length. But yeah, they did get into some whiskey, so maybe that was part of why he's a little bit looser.
Well, didn't he move here? Because Joe Rogan moved to Texas.
Joe Rogan moved. Elon's moved. Tesla is building a factory right by the airport, I believe, in Austin.
Yeah, the Gigafactory.
Okay.
To build Cybertruck.
I think he's got like 1,500 acres or something.
Yeah, it's a big plot. It's out by the Speedway, I believe, in that general area.
Yeah, you hope Austin will keep its kind of small, coolish vibe as it continues to grow. I mean, it's awesome that it's growing as a tech hub. It's already pretty significant, but it's such a great place. Hopefully, it doesn't lose any of that.
Yeah, it is, and it's really interesting because downtown, where most people think of 6th Street, and that's been pretty badly hurt by COVID, just because bars and restaurants can't really be open. But the surrounding areas where all these companies are going, like the Round Rock by Dell, that's exploded. I think Apple's there now, Amazon's there. They have a big plant there for Amazon delivery. Then you got Elon Musk coming, Oracle, yeah. And I think a stock exchange moved to downtown Austin.
I think McKesson's moving to Texas too. I don't know if it was Austin, but
yeah. But hopefully that means we'll get money to put in a better power grid to bring it back.
A lot of data centers and a lot of people coming in.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the bottom of the hour. It was always great to at least hear from you, Tim. And yeah, hopefully things warm up there and power gets restored here quickly and life gets back to normal for you guys.
Yeah, Boo, if you want, as I close out, I can flash to give everybody a view. I can flash out one of my windows. I won't show me, but I'll flash out the window. Hopefully you guys can see that.
Yeah.
So, can you see the ice on my pool? So I might go skating later, get my hockey legs back.
Nice.
Yeah, if you do, you got to tell Kyle McKay. I'll be jealous because his pool's. I'll check on him and see if his pool's up yet, but it doesn't sound like it was last week.
By the way, on that whole topic, I did look at one point when I lived in Chicago of having a year-round rink using synthetic ice in my backyard. So I have thought about that down here. Cool. Just put synthetic ice out there.
Yeah, nice.
Awesome.
All right, Tim. Thanks again. Good to hear from you. Good to see you. And yeah, hope all is well down in your neck of the woods here soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And hopefully one day we'll be able to have a visit back to BC. I always like coming to visit you guys.
Yeah, we look forward to that for sure. All right. Bye, folks.
See ya.
Thanks for checking this out today. If you're watching via YouTube right now, go ahead and click subscribe down below. Also click the bell for notifications. That way you will find out when we are dropping a new video or when we're going live. Also, there's darylandbuu.com. If you head over to that, leave your name and email address, we will drop a weekly technical newsletter in your inbox every Monday. Also, this is available via podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify. Head over to one of those, hit subscribe, and you'll be able to listen to us in the car on your commute or during a walk or a run. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.